Yeah.
Okay. Are you recording it into the cloud?
I don't know. I paused the recording button first of all, and I've just pressed again recording. So, but before I did that,
Okay.
it came up saying recording was in progress. So,
Okay. All right, great. Um, yeah, so my brain isn't on usual Katie mode. Let's say that. So just bear with me if I need a moment of like, fuck, I'm dizzy. Um, OJ, who's from Turkey, she's got work, so she can't be here live. And I thought what we can do, I'm gonna move my camera. So hopefully you can see my paper. Okay. Kind of. If I draw on here, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see that okay?
yeah.
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 Yeah. So again, thanks everybody. And these sessions are to focus for the technique. So as I explained in the message, when we get together in person for the training, that your body is already familiar with the movements and you're not having to think about, oh, how do I do this movement or which direction is this? Because what I found in the first trainings when people came who hadn't trained in sort of traditional belly dance already, it was so much for them to think about because they were not only having to learn how to facilitate and the theory around awakened belly dance, they were having to also learn a whole new alphabet with their body about the movements. And I mean, they did it and really fair play to them. But I saw that it was an extra pressure when we did the facilitation practice. And so I thought, okay, why not just make everybody's lives easier? And also fitting in the technique classes during the training was also difficult for me. So yeah, make everyone's lives easier and just do it in advance so that then you've got time to practice as well and to ask questions and get more familiar with things. So hang on, let's see. Maybe it's just better if I hold. I've not done it this way before. God, this is not conducive for a dizzy head. Okay, so let's say we have our body and we've got all these different joints. I don't know why it won't show it. Right. So we've got our body and we've got the different joints in our body. So we've got like the main ones in our neck and obviously all the way down our vertebra. We've got our elbows and our wrists, and we've got all our little knuckles. Oh yeah, and Simone as well. She has an appointment. She also couldn't be here live. Then we've got our pelvis, knees, ankles, and then our feet and all our little toe knuckles as well. So some of these only move in certain directions, and some of them have got more kind of options in how they move. But the thing that is sort of consistent with everything is that we can make this figure of eight movement in all different areas in different directions. So the figure of eight could be this way. It can be this way. and it can be in different directions. So it could be that we're going like this, or it could be like this, or like this. So this gives us lots of choices of what we can do. And also it's very protective for our body, because all of these kind of movements, they're not putting pressure or force. It's acting more like a lubrication, because we're bringing more flexibility and more fluid into those areas of our body, which, as we can see, are kind of very interconnected. And then, of course, there's lots of other sort of pathways and things between all of this. But in a sort of purely physical sense, this is what's connecting everything together. And then this also means, because in say, a kind of what's considered a normal body, that with all these limbs and everything, that you see lots of crossovers in any kind of dance form or any kind of movement modality. So from martial arts to belly dance to yoga, to then whether it's salsa or tap dance or African dance, there's only so many ways that our body can move. So there's crossovers again and again and again, which have obviously come up through these different movement styles in different cultures over the millennia. But belly dance, it's very particular to these figure of 8 movements. So hang on, let me just change my pen. So in the neck, we have more of this shape, which can go in different directions. We've also got this shape that can be created all the way down the spine to the hips, and all the way up from the hips to the top of the neck. Well, and the top of the head, really, because our head continues this movement here. And even some people, if they're clever, they could do it with their eyes as well, and which you see in more of the classical Indian and Balinese dances, Nepalese dance. So, so this move can be created down and down, all the way through and into our hips. And then, as I said, it can be created going up and up. And this can be in the same directional loop, or it can be opposites, all the way up here. Then with our spine, we can also have this figure of 8 shape as well, because we've got this long space that we can play with. And really a key kind of trick for like getting smoother movements in belly dance is to elongate your body. So any kind of side stretches and twists, this is all going to help. So now we can look at this loop. So we can go this way and hang on, this way, and we can come upwards and down, depending on our focus. So you can see already that it already looks like there's energy moving, and how we can kind of guide our energy to move up and down and through our body. And then, of course, this can expand all the way down to our feet and into the earth. So let's do another stick. Okay, so then we've also got the same thing with our elbows and with our wrists. So the elbows are a bit, I like the knees, they're a bit more restricted, but we can still make this shape. Our wrists, we can circle and we can make an 8. So we've got more of an option. I mean, yes, we can circle with our elbows in a way, but it's not really so dancey. So here and here. Then, as I said, we've got the figure of 8 with the hips that you're familiar with, but we can also change this and where we bring one leg into it more so that there's an emphasis more on one hip or on the other hip. And then our knees are also, again, I'm doing this as I'm saying it, we can also work with our knees in a figure of 8 way because we can isolate a figure of 8 at the hips, at the knees, and then keeping the ankles heavy. And our ankles, like our wrists, can circle them. And we can figure of 8 one. So belly dance with the more softer feminine movements is made up of combinations of these shapes. Everything is coming from a circle. And if you think about the circle, it's coming from your belly button. Because this is for women, of course, it's like the center of everything. So from this is where we're connected to our mom in the womb and our babies have been connected to us. And then where this spiral starts to grow from. And then this gets bigger and bigger. And on and on and on. And of course, also through the chest, we've got another figure of 8 as well. So when you look at these as, say, like overlays of each other, this way, and remember this also is horizontal and vertical as well. So drawing it on a paper, it's difficult, but if you think of like these are one sort of plane, and then you've got another plane and the other direction of that plane. So we begin to get this overlay, which to me, I started to think, this is long before I knew anything about the Blue Lotus, that if we're doing this again and again and again, we start to create this kind of flower of life, or like a lotus pattern within our hips, or of course it can be with any part of our body, but the strongest part is in the hips because this is where we've got the most options for movement. And then this, it expands and expands. And it's like we're cultivating energy there. So what I realized quite early on, because when I was teaching Reiki and I was sort of in the sort of belly dancey world much more in England, I was seeing that there was so much ego and shadow, and I was thinking, I can't understand why is this happening? Why are people so horrible to each other? And it was like I'd gone out of high school and then into grown-up bitchiness, and was like, what? Adults really like this as well. And it was quite a shock for me. I remember I was, I don't know, 17 or something, and backstage in an event, and I was listening to these women who were probably in their 30s or 40s, but of course to me at that time they seemed so much older. And I was listening and I was like, oh my God, this is like, nothing's any different to what I've just experienced through school. So So yeah, when I got more into Reiki and understanding about energy, I thought, of course, because when we're activating, especially in the hips, and bringing this sort of really powerful or potentially powerful energy through our body, if it's just sitting there and it's just going over and over and over and it hasn't got a job to do or it hasn't got anywhere to move, it's just going to become this kind of stagnant mess, really. And then it sits there, and that then is sort of more activating the kind of lower aspects of our of us, like our more animalistic side. So then of course all this kind of ego and competition and territorial behavior comes in. And this was a big reason of why I wanted to create Awaken Belly Dance. It was to get away from that and to show that there's something different possible with belly dance. Okay, any questions so far? Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. So different. I got these new pens and I don't know what colours to use. So you could also think of these places where we showed the joints, that they can act as locks or blocks or places of stagnancy in the body, because physically they do open and close like gateways, because we can do this with our wrist, same with our ankle, with our head, it can go forward and back and side to side. So this is also affecting the flow of energy. So part of that is to do with posture and how the flow can move through somebody's body. And of course, we can adjust that with our movements as well. And so we can open all of this, which then opens us to patterns that we're holding and that we're creating, and all the way to our fingertips. Because remember, hang on, I need another map. So our heart center, this is expanding way beyond our chest, out through our fingertips. And this is, of course, where things like Sufi whirling come in. And if you look at the shape of the toroid, or this donut, how we have this power that's coming all the way through from our heart, that's acting like a generator, and it's coming through the top of our head and then around each side and then back up and through and back through the heart. So this is happening all the time. So it's like we're this kind of, not even a mini generator, a really super powered generator. And this extends about 2 meters all around us. So anybody who's coming, oh, sorry if that's backwards. Two. Anyone who's coming into contact with us, with our energy field. So this can be just by walking past you or sitting in a restaurant and the tables are really close together. You and they are, this is another one, their energy field is interacting with yours. So you might then suddenly have some kind of like sensation in your body or emotions or ideas as well that has come, because there's this crossover between the two. And this is why I go on so much about the grounding and doing your shielding, because it's not just about shielding this physical, it's this whole space around yourself, so that when you come into contact with this one, it's not that you're pushing them out and like, like everyone get out of my space, or that you need to be afraid of everybody and push them out, but you're making it more difficult to be affected by their energies or to be infiltrated by their energies. So it then, like, I've had this before where I've seen people obviously feel it even though it's not consciously, and then they kind of step across a little bit, like to give me space, because they feel that, okay, there's something here and I need to be more here. So when we're facilitating and we're creating this, of course, we've got all the people who are in our space that we're interacting with on so many different levels, and who are interacting with us. So we've got all these different energy fields happening. And what we can do with the movements is expand our energy. And we can also bring our energy in. So whatever part of the body that we're using, we can use that to kind of push or expand our energy out, and we can bring it in. And I mean, that also crosses over into performers. So say somebody like Tina Turner, or Tom Jones, like these people that are really known for their sort of magnetic performances. It's because they understand how to do this. Maybe they just can do it naturally, but a lot of them, with all the weird shit that they do, they understand how to work with the energy, with their energy and with the audience's energy, so that they can draw it in and kind of feed on that energy. But they also know to do that, they have to also give some out to kind of act like a hook to bring people in. Now, of course, we're not doing this with the Waking Belly Dance. We're not taking anyone's energy or anything. But at the same time, you do need to understand that you're very, very powerful in your body, and especially with these movements. And when we're practicing them again and again, because in facilitating, you're going to be doing them so many times, that it creates a kind of electricity and magnetism within you, which will affect the whole field of the group. And through that, you can bring the group in, bringing them in together, and you can also scatter the energy as well and give more space. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Let me put my camera. One sec. So I'm going to get you to stand up now. And so if you can stand or position your camera so that I can see your whole body. Oh yeah, I forgot that Jane's in my house. I was like, I know that house. Is Kitty hiding?
Hitty's on my bed again on the big blanket.
Oh. That's a really cool background, Nada.
It's like she's on the beach.
Mm. Okay, so first of all, with this idea about the like building blocks through your body and how we have these natural patterns of holding our bodies that we might think that we're straight or that we're in a certain position, but a lot of the time when we actually look at it, we're not. And I had this when I first started the Gurdjieff classes, and the teacher would say, you know, put your arm out straight. And at that point, I think I'd had, I don't know, 18 years of belly dance at that point, of training my arm to be soft, or arms to be soft through the joints. So when I put my arm out and what I thought was straight was actually, I mean, I still find it really difficult to do it straight now. So I trained to be like this, which isn't straight at all. But to me, it felt straight. Now I can feel that, okay, no, there's that, there's that, there's that. So she would come to me and she'd say, you know, look at your arm. And then she'd start adjusting it. And I was like, like, that's not natural. And she was saying, well, this is straight. And so I was like this because I was training him to be a belly dancer. So things like that, and even with my thumb, because belly dance is like, especially for performance, your thumb is kept in, whereas to be straight is more like this, where your thumb is next to your fingers. So this is really good to look at and discover in yourself, where you know that you're holding things, and sometimes it can be too straight, you know, like really tightly pulled in with your belly and your bum, and you're not giving space for your spine. So if you close your eyes and put your feet hip width apart, and then feel your weight evenly balanced. So to find this, you need to focus on your spine and feel bringing it between your feet. So it can feel strange at first because you're kind of bringing it into a space. But physically, how you'll feel this is, okay, am I on one foot more than the other? Like, is one knee a little bit more bent or a bit straight? Like, how do my legs hold me? Because, of course, we all have habits of slouching to one side or the other too. So find this balance between your feet, and then open your toes out. And then just quickly open your eyes and look down at your feet. And are they both pointing forwards, or is one out a little bit, one's in? Okay, so weight evenly balanced on your feet, and then your heels over your feet. And then soften your knees. So it's not a big knee bend, but they're not locked out. So this is very, very important that you always keep your knees soft. And that your knees are bending towards your second toe, because you don't want them to knock inwards or outwards. And over time, this becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it, but it's good to do it in a way that it's a bit more robotic so that your body gets really clear. Okay, so knees over your second toe, then your hips square over your knees, and again, checking where your balance is. So is your weight going towards the balls of your feet or towards your heels? Or is it somewhere in the middle? And through this, it's almost like a slight dropping down with your bum. So not exactly like you're sitting, but you could lean on a ledge if you wanted to. So there's like a tiny drop. Yeah. And through that, it lengthens and straightens out your lower back a little bit. So again, it's not to be completely flat, but we also don't want our bum to be sticking out because this puts pressure on the lower spine as well. So just a little bit. So then your lower body is all stacked. Feet, ankles, knees, hips, your whole pelvis. And again, feel, is your balance going straight through the center? Now from here, feel where your belly button is in relation to that and your hips. So especially if you've had any kind of cesarean or hernia surgery or anything like that, then your belly button can be not quite in the right place in the center. So although if it's been physically kind of moved there because of the way things have been stitched, we can't move it too much. But we can at least kind of give our body the idea that this is the center and this is the alignment. Okay, then feel your ribs over your hips. And your heart lined up with your belly button. And again, through the center for your balance. So just take a few moments to notice what happens when you bring your heart and your upper body into the mix. And notice if it changes anything with your breath or with your balance. So then, because mostly as women, we have one boob that's bigger than the other, and it can be really subtle. But of course, this also makes a difference. So notice, is there any micro shift you need to make with your chest just to give a little bit more balance because of one boob pulling more to one side? Okay, now with your shoulders, so very gentle roll back. And as you drop your shoulders down, feel your whole shoulder blades also dropping through your back. Because when we do any kind of arms or upper body movements with belly dance, people always say at the beginning that their arms get tired, and the same with whirling as well. And this is because they're using their arm strength to hold their arms up, which of course it gets exhausting after 2 minutes. So what we have to do is use our back muscles, and a way to start engaging them and kind of going, hey, give me a hand here, is by feeling it's like you roll back and your shoulder blades do, that's the way that I feel it, like they do this, and then that helps the muscles to go, yeah, okay, I can give some support here. Very good. And again, notice, is one shoulder tighter, looser, more up or down, or back or forward? And then focus on the soft part of your neck. Is this lining up with your heart and your belly button and through your center? So through this, your neck and your upper spine coming more into your center. And then your jaw equally over your neck and the center of your shoulders. And relax your jaw. And then feeling the whole of your head and up into your crown. So your crown is lining up through the soft part of your throat, your heart, your belly button, all the way down. And then very gently give your arms and hands a shake. And let them settle against your body. And as you do this, feel like you have life all the way through and out of your fingertips. Because often people forget about their hands and they think, oh, they can just hang here and they can just be like this. But of course, then we're cutting off energy or this happens and we're like, everything's getting stuck and we're losing this potential for movement. So you, again, feel from your shoulders and keeping it soft through your elbows, and then soft through your wrists, through your knuckles, your fingers, your thumbs. Right. So as you breathe in, breathe up through your center, all the way through, out through the top of your head. And as you breathe out, remember I showed you that donut shape all the way around you. And then it's coming back in and under and through, up, and breathing out all the way around. And then breathing up, through, all the way around. Then we go the opposite way. So as you breathe in, you're drawing your energy around you, and then down through your crown as you breathe out, through your center. And imagine a drawing up, breathing in, through your crown, breathing out, through your center. Once more, breathing in, through your crown, down through your center. So feel this energy moving in both directions. Coming up and through your center and out and round. And coming around and then down through the center. And keep noticing what's happening with your body posture. Are you going into any old patterns, leaning one way or the other? Or is your weight going forward or back? Have you locked out your knees? Is your chin relaxed? Okay, open your eyes and have a shake. Good. How does that feel? All okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. It's rain got louder and louder, and it's a corrugated iron roof. So it's like
I can't hear it this end, Katie.
pardon?
Can't hear it this end.
Oh, okay, that's good then. Yeah, it's all around. Okay, so as I showed you in the drawings, we've got these different shapes from circles and figures of 8, and this can be with any different part of our body. What's really important, because say with the hips, we can go in 4 directions. And when you're leading your groups, of course, people are going to be copying you. They don't always copy you in exactly the shape or the direction that you're doing. But you at least need to be clear that, am I going forwards? Am I going up and down? Am I going side to side? Because it might be that you also are explaining it as take your hips up and over. But if your hips are going back and round, it's not matching together. And this will be confusing for people. And yeah, and everybody has different directions that are more natural to their body, and it will be the same for all of you as well. Some of you will find one direction, you just do it, you don't even have to think of it, and you see someone else and they're like, what, how on earth are you doing that? But for them, the opposite direction is going to be natural, and then you'll be saying, how do you do that? So it just means that you have to practice in the opposite direction a bit extra. And so this will happen in your groups, that people will watch you, and often they are doing the same thing as you, but also their body interprets it in ways that either suit their patterns or that are maybe easiest to move because they might have an injury or something. But yeah, you'll see different things happening in the room. And for some people, especially when they're new as well, or like it's the first session, I don't kind of correct so much, because I don't want people to go into too much thinking about, oh, is this the right way or the wrong way, supposedly, you know, of what you've said. Because I've had when I've done sessions at belly dance events, and because they're so focused on the technique, I've had people interrupt the session and say, oh, can you just tell me, like, are you doing this way, and is it a this kind of figure of 8 and this and this? And I'm like, please just shut up and like just do whatever you do. Because, but the thing is, if I was teaching a choreography and technique class, of course I would be encouraging people to do that. But in this, it isn't, because it's going to interrupt, and it's also going to put this in other people's minds that, oh, well, I never heard of this kind of figure of eight before, so am I doing it wrong? And it starts a whole story. Also in this, while it's in my mind, it's probably good to mention, because if some of you might know people that are belly dancers, or you might come across them because maybe where you live, you advertise your sessions, and they'll contact you and, belly dance, like I never heard of you, or I never saw you at belly dance events before, so how long have you been belly dancing, and what kind of belly dancer are you? And what's really important is to be clear that this isn't a belly dance training. It's like we're working with the movements to work with our energy and with the group energy. But at the moment, I'm not training you to be professional belly dancers. So because, again, of this weird stuff in the belly dance world, a few facilitators have had some kind of shitty comments from people. And I was like, just tell them to fuck off, really. So you don't have to explain anything. But I can see on one hand that some people are confused, that they're like, what? Because then they're not understanding about how you can work with energy in the body. And others because they're kind of so focused on belly dance as a kind of cultural dance, I guess, or even not exactly religious, but definitely cultural dance, and the history of that. So they just can't imagine how it can be anything else, and that somebody could be facilitating this and not be what's thought of as a professional belly dancer. So this is important, that it doesn't mean that you have to go around saying, I'm not a belly dancer, but just being really clear that there's a sort of difference, because also the times when it happened has often been because there maybe is somebody teaching belly dance in the place where they live. And then, of course, they've gone into there's a belly dancer and it's competition, but it's not a belly dance class. So, yeah, just while I thought of that. Okay, let's do some more movements then. I'm not also going to stand up, and I might have to hold the table at some points. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm putting this on so that you can sort of see more clearly what's happening with my hips, but also because it kind of strengthens and protects. It's like this kind of hip girdle and your lower back. But when you're first learning, it really helps having this kind of pressure on your hips so that you can feel what's happening as you move. Because when you've got loose clothes on, your hips are sliding around and it's more difficult to feel what's going on. So yeah, if you've got a sarong, or it doesn't have to be anything fancy, then it's really good to practice. So the alignment that we did at the beginning is like, no matter what, we're always coming into this stacking, and this is going to protect your body and also help the energy to move as well. So my knees are always soft, and I've got this kind of sitting here, so I'm not like this or like this. So just here, and then straight through my back. Mm. So we're going to do some kind of exercises, stretches first of all, which it helps to open your body, and also their preparation for movements that we're going to do in other weeks. So it's like stepping stones. None of them are for no reason. They're all helping your body to kind of combine different ways of moving together. So step on your knees and then bring your arms out. So we've got our weight in the center. If we push or slide our hips to one side, then we feel all the weight on this leg. But my upper body is still in the center. So it's not, I haven't moved my whole body. It's just my lower body. And then back to the center. Then to the other side. So my weight now is all on here. And my body is through the center. Back to the middle. So remember, knees stay soft. Yeah. So if you keep doing this, going from off your center to the side, and then back to the center, and then up, and back to the center. Now, I know all the tricks that people try to do, like locking out their knees and sticking their bum out and things like this. And it can feel, for you, often will do it because your body's trying to take the easiest route. But it's so important to keep your knees soft. And the movement might be really small, and that's completely fine. Okay, James, so you're not bending one knee and then the other. They keep in the same. Hang on, if I can you see my knees.
Yeah.
If I so the line stays straight. If I can you see my knees?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pushing my hip up. It's changing. So I want my knees to stay the same.
But we don't lock the other knee. Like if we bend one, the other one is always
So
still slightly bent.
Hold on a sec. Let me turn this up now. Say again.
Yeah, so even if one knee is more bent than the other, the other one is slightly bent still. It's not locked, right?
Yeah, no, what I was saying is not to bend one more than the other. Keep them the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but not also still not locked. So so your knees and your hips stay on one plane. Yeah. And also your whole body stays in the center, and it's just your hips that move off of the center. Okay, Nadia, if you try not to move your knees. Okay, one's bending and then the other. So make the movement more from your hips and your waist rather than from your knees. So it's a slide. Yeah, and Jane, now your whole body's moving more. So That's it. Can you see Fee?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember, we've got all these different parts of the body and the joints, and belly dance is like it's a dance of isolating the different areas of the body, but at the same time, it's a dance of full integration of the body. So it sounds like it's, of course, the opposites of each other. But when you get more used to the movements, you then start to feel the connections between your whole body as you do it. Yeah, that's better, Jane. Yeah, Catherine, I can see. So there's no push or anything. It's like just a slide, really soft. Yeah, that's better, Nada. Great. Okay, have a shake. So we have this truss plane. Then we can also go forward and back with our pelvis. I'm surrounded by, there's 3 dogs here as well now. There's 5 puppies somewhere, and they all keep coming, like, surrounding our area. So, at least the puppies aren't here because they're like just licking and trying to eat your feet, and they must be hiding. But there's literally a dog. I just almost stood on her face. Okay. So again, drop down. So we've got a neutral position. Now if I pull all the way in, I'm lengthening my tailbone, and my belly button is drawing up and inwards. Then if I go all the way back, my bum is out and my belly is out. But you don't want to go so far that you've got any kind of tension or pain. So if you feel like, oh, that feels weird, go to before that point. So all the way in and back. And the trick is that it's like an optical illusion. The more you go in, which is kind of more softening for your spine, of course, it's going to look bigger when you release. You don't have to go back so much. In and back. So again, my knees stay completely the same. And I haven't got any movement in my legs. I'll show you this way as well. It's all from my pelvis. So if you imagine like a pendulum or a rocking chair, that my pelvis can drop in and out, in and out. And it might help to put one hand on the front and one hand on the back. And then you can sort of guide your body a little bit as well. So this movement also is really good for your pelvic floor. Sit. And try to keep it so it's just one way and the other. So there's not any, it's not going into a fluid movement. It's literally opening your pelvis, closing, opening, closing. And this move is the basis for so many movements in belly dance, just generally. But of course, in awakened belly dance, when we're looking at things like shame and guilt and sexual repression, sensual repression, and abuse, and just this movement alone can activate and open and release so much for people. But it's actually the practice technique to go into other movements as well. So you can use your breath to help you. When you're pulling in, you're breathing out. So you're squashing all the air out of your body. And then when you push your bum out and your belly forward, you're breathing in. So you're expanding everything. And breathing out. And if you breathe in and out through your mouth, good. So, and feel your spine and your belly muscles working together. Because if you're only trying to use one or the other, this also gets tiring. So it needs to be the front and the back and all the way through. So your pelvic floor, when you squeeze in, draw your pelvic floor in and up as well. And then relax as you let go. Yeah. Good. Okay. Have a shake again. Great. Do you all feel all right? Any questions? Okay. So we've had two directions. We've got across and forward and back. Then we can have a twist, because you'll see this as well when you facilitate and when we're at the training, is that we're always stretching polarities. So this is not only emotionally and spiritually and, you know, head fuckedly. It's like we have to do it with the body, because if you do a whole session that's only going forward and back, people's backs are going to really hurt them. So there has to be this combination of the different directions of the movements for the sake of people's bodies and muscles as well, so that there can be this constant expansion and contraction through the movement. So now what we're going to do next is more with a twist with our hips. So a different plane. Now this one again, our feet are planted on the ground, knees soft, and my hips are going to twist forward, 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 forward. And then I step over the dog. So you can see my knees. Hopefully. So here. So as I twist There's a little bit of movement in my knees, but it's not this. Okay. Yeah. And my knees they're not coming in together. They stay. My knees are staying lined up with my ankles and with my feet. So I'm not knocking my knees in. I'm just really gently bring my hip forward, and then my other hip comes forward, forward, forward. And my upper body is staying to the front. My shoulders to the front. My hands are moving a little bit just to help me with the movement. My head is to the front. Good. Okay, have a shake. We're going to do the exact same thing, but this time I want you to focus on your hip is going back, back. So the movement is exactly the same. It's just where you've put your focus mentally. So the hip that's going back, 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 back. So ideally, there won't be any difference in the movement at all, apart from you've changed something in your mind. Okay, Nada, try not to bend your knees. So again, come from your waist and your hips. And more of a twist. So your hips stay on a flat plane and they twist and twist. Okay, now have a shake again. And same movement. This time, focus like we did it first with the hip that was going back. So exactly the same. And just focus, okay, hips going back, hips going back. And see if you notice any difference. Nice, good. Sit and twist. So as you twist, you're going to feel maybe like on one side your kidney gets a bit squashed, and on the other side it gets stretched. And then as you move, it will change over. Have a shake again. Same movement, and this time focus on the hip going forward. So exactly the same. Forward and twist. Good. Good. Okay, have a shake. All okay? So another direction, up and down and up. For this, you can use your knees because where your knees go, your hip has to follow because they're connected. And this is also why it's important to know when you need to do that, or like the ones that we've just done, when you don't need to do that. So I'm again, always this basic position. My hips are level. And then if I just bend one knee more, the same hip drops down. If I straighten it up, but I've still got a soft knee, it comes to equal again. If I bend this one, my hip drops. Come back to neutral again. Drop, drop, and then you can do it more, kind of more like one after the other. So my hips are going down to the floor and towards my ribs. Down to the floor, towards my ribs. So it's like if you were in a tube and your hips have to stay in that same shape. And here, I bend more and bend. Bend. Watch my upper body, it stays in the same place. So I'm not this or this. This stays the same. My knees and my hips. Because if I do it here, if I let my whole body go, this is happening or this is happening. So it's just here. And again, very soft. So gently bend one knee more than the other. Your hip goes down. And then you bend the other knee. Now, something that often our body wants to do is to lock out the other leg, because then it feels like you can push more. And it's really important that you just keep it in this soft position. So I'm in soft. I bend this one more. This one stays the same. So I'm not locking it out. I'm not bending. It's the same. This one straightens a little bit, and this one then bends. So now this is in the neutral. See. Try and get it just on my knees. Okay, you see the dog. so I'm here. So when I bend and my hip drops, this one doesn't move. Then I bend this one, and this comes back to neutral. If I locked it, would do this. And when I lock it, you see it pushes my hip out. And this is putting pressure here and on your knees, which isn't good, especially over a length of time. So I'll remind you again and again about this with your knees, because I've seen so many teachers, like belly dance teachers and professional dancers, have to have knee surgery because they followed this stupid trend about dancing with locked knees and they all fucked their knees up. And I was like, I'm not doing that. This is like 25 years ago. And yeah, so I'm really strict about this because of course we want our bodies to last. So we bend, my hip drops down, bend, it drops down. So it's like a lengthening of your side. So got my sort of hips, my waist, and as I drop, this gets longer and this gets a little bit more squashed. This gets longer, a little bit more squashed. But the rest of my body stays in the same place. Okay, have a shake. So the same thing for this. We're going to focus first of all on dropping our hip down, 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 down. And to drop it, all that you're doing is bend your knee, bend your knee, bend your knee. Good. The shape. And then the same, exactly the same movement. And we do the same thing that we bend our knee. The focus is now on the hip that goes up, 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 up. So we're focused on the more squashy side instead of the lengthening side. And remember still that you're in this tube. So the hip coming up, up, up. Good. And your feet stay flat on the floor. Great. Okay, have a shake. I'm guessing by now you're probably feeling it a bit in your thighs. You're going to get the strongest thighs ever from doing belly dance. Okay, I just check the time. Okay, so right, my laptop has just told me that it's on super safe battery, so could last 10 minutes, it could last 20 minutes. So probably now is a good time to see if you've got any questions so far about what we've done today. No?
Maybe I have one thing like
Okay.
of what you said in the beginning about the dance world and yeah, why people. Sorry, I need to drink something. yeah, you said that somehow the movement of the body, if we open up our, how do we say it again? Yeah, by opening up the body, we become like, yeah, we raise our vibration, we become nicer people, less competition, and so on. But yeah, I'm reflecting a lot on matriarchy and patriarchy lately. So yeah, I'm thinking it's also related to the whole system. Like, I don't know if you have, yeah, like, how do you see this connection? Like, how come is there, yeah, is the patriarchy also part in this, that somehow we're less stimulated to move our body freely? This I notice, like, yeah, in Islam, okay, we have belly dancing in Egypt, but if as a woman, if you're married, like your husband could tell you, don't move your body, you know, other men would like it. And is that what you mean? Or like, do you know what I
It's part, yeah, it can be part of it. I mean, there's some stuff I'll talk about when we're in the training about the history of this and with religion and with women and movement, and a lot about trance as well. So there's quite a lot that I'll talk about when we're together. But yeah, it kind of covers all of it. And the thing that I find really sad in the sort of belly dance world is that it's marketed as a dance, like a very feminine dance and very sexy, and that it's like women together. But it's probably one of the most masculine kind of competitive worlds that you could be in. And when you look at the kind of top belly dancers today, they're all full of plastic and, you know, these very hard and muscular bodies. And compared to, say, in like the 1940s, 50s of belly dance in the old Egyptian films, the women were so feminine, and they each had their own kind of signature style, like their personality. Whereas today, the focus is with everything, it's like how to be sexy and, you know, kind of shake your ass and wear as less clothes as possible. It's like this kind of I guess like sacred sensuality has been lost from it. And it yeah, it covers everything that you said really. And this sort of power people are afraid of. Women in power in their bodies is something apparently very scary for the world. So and what we might do with our body if we're like fully connected to it, and you know, nobody would have a chance kind of thing.
world, get ready for a new group.
Exactly. um yeah, so what we've done today I'd call like, I guess, drills or conditioning moves, because there may be not movements that you think, oh, we didn't really do this usually in this way in the awaken belly dance sessions. But as I said, they're like the base building blocks so that you can do the movement safely and get to understand, okay, this direction is really easy for my body to move in, but when I change the focus or I change the direction of the same movement, suddenly it's like, oh, what is this body and what is this movement? And something changes, so that you can then start to understand where yeah, which directions are more natural to you, and where you need to do a bit more practice. And I had exactly the same. And when I very first started belly dance, it was with a friend, and every movement where there was a choice of the direction, one of us could do one direction and the other one could do the other direction, and we'd be like, how, what, like, how are you doing this and how are you doing this? So I've had to go through all of this myself. It wasn't like I just went to a class and was like, okay, I can do it. And it takes time, because we're not used to moving our body in this way. But then if you look at like watching people dance here, even just on New Year's Eve, it's so sensual and so like so sexualized, but in a really playful way, and in a way that nobody's like, oh, you know, they're like kind of twerking on their hands and knees on the floor or like grinding each other. It's just like totally normal, and like these amazing dancers. Oh my God, it's like I was just standing there and I was like, I'm just not gonna dance. It's like so many like booty shakings going on, and this real sort of freedom in the hips and the pelvis that is like, yeah, I can be really sexual and play with this, but it doesn't mean that I'm trying to have sex with you. I mean, some yes, but it's like a really different I don't know, like a different enjoyment in the body. So so yeah, this gives you sort of things that you can practice in what have we got, a week. So yeah, practice these, and it's things that you can be washing up, or you know, whatever, something that you're doing, or you're like just waiting for the food to cook, or and you can think, oh yeah, I can practice just like let my hip drop and let my hip drop, and you'll get used to it. And just a few minutes every day when you're brushing your teeth, that's when I always used to practice. So right, let's see how long this lasts, and we can do some sitting down as well. And give your legs some rest. So if this cuts off, I'm sorry, but I thought while we can. A wiggly wire now. So this helps to practice sitting down, because then it keeps your hips still. So remember, we've got this stacking on top of our hips, our ribs, shoulders, because if I'm like this, there's such a difference to, well, this, or coming back more into neutral rather than this. So here. And then in the same way that we did the slide with our hips, if you bring your hands, it also helps to stabilize. And then relax your shoulders so you're not like this. We can have the same slide. And think of it as your ribs moving. Your boobs are going to move whatever, they're attached. So think from the bones, and you're trying to straighten, everything's at angles. Do I look straight, like I'm straight at you? Pretty much, yeah. So I've got my spine through here, and like we took our hips off the center, I'm taking my ribs off the center, but my bum cheeks are both still equally on the chair. I'm not like this. So across and across, across. And so there's a straight line going through my heart, through my boobs, to my armpits. And again, like here, this feels like it's stretching. This feels like it's a little bit squashed. And then stretching, a little bit squashed. And it's a lot easier, especially at the beginning, if you have your hands on your body, because then you've got something firm. So it's not so much that you're pushing against them, but it helps to stabilize you. When your arms are off of your body, after a while, yes, but to begin with, it's easier this way. That's it. And then just watch your shoulders, that they also stay level. So my shoulders, I'm not doing this, only from here. And back to the center and have a shake. So because I know the battery will go, I won't spend as long on these, have the technique to practice. So then the same way, forward and back. So although with our pelvis, we've got more of, what's the word, like a hinge. This is just going straight forward, like you're pushing your boobs to the screen, say, and back again. So as I go forward, I'm lengthening and my hips are tilting a little bit, but not too much. And then as I go back, I'm coming back, but not collapsing. So I'm coming back to here. So I feel that my weight is a little bit back, but not enough that I'm all the way back in the chair. So I just take myself off my central balance forward and then take myself the central balance back. And then breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and out. Remember, breathe through your mouth. In. And imagine that your ribs are like they're moving as one piece here and here, here and here. So of course your upper spine especially is going to go with that movement, but your lower spine is more fixed. Great. Okay, have a shake. Now, do you remember
It looks like Katie's frozen.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's her battery gone.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
possibly.
yeah. Well, hang on, see if she comes back. Has Catherine gone?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay. That Katie's gone off now, so I guess she's lost signal, lost
Okay.
something. All right then. Well, we'll be doing this again next week. Does anyone have any questions, Nadia or Jane? Anything you wanted to ask before we go?
No,
No,
nothing I
I
can
think
think of.
I
Lovely.
think someone is texting. Maybe it's her. Let me check. Katie said I lost connection. Battery is on somehow. She's trying still to come back. So let's
Okay,
see.
well, hang on then.
Yeah, I'll just reply. Keep doing the waving. Yeah, so we just to keep move. So now she asked to do it from tail to crown and down from crown to tail. And she will try to come back from phone.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
The weaving all the way down to
there she is.
Hi, Catherine. We've lost signal with Katie as well. She's just trying to come back on her phone. We're just doing the chest, going forward and back. And waving down from tail, crown to tail, and tail to crown. So Katie's not able to get back into Zoom. So yeah. Well, we've had nearly we've had over an hour and a half. I'll just message her. Okay. All right then. So this has been recorded, so we can get the recording out to you. Katie will send it out, and for the other two who weren't able to be here. And yeah, so see you all, everyone okay? Any last questions or anything?
No.
Good. Give yourself a shakedown, and I can feel it in my muscles from doing it's like a bit of a workout, isn't it? But like Katie said, the more you practice it, the better it'll be and the easier it'll be for you on the training, because you don't want to have to be thinking when you're doing the training about all this move and that move. So it gets it into your muscle memory, and just like repetition. I mean, I do stuff when I'm driving as well, just doing chest moves, brushing your teeth, anytime, just try and keep doing it as much as possible and get it into your muscle memory. All right then.
Okay then.
See you all next week.
Will do. Bye.
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 Bye.